Hello, welcome Simon's Trading Channel. I have an itchy chin. Happy Thursday to you. Welcome back. It's been a crazy couple of days. I would have recorded a video yesterday, but I had some serious IT issues and that I wasn't able to sort out in time. So sorry for that. But what a couple of days, right? Following the tariffs and then the reversal, and it's all a bit crazy. But what this does tell me is that you know when all the dust settles, generally prices go back to what they were doing, right? The trend, the higher time frame trend is likely to continue until it doesn't, of course. Anyway, I'm going to start off with a higher time frame here on Bitcoin, and you can see this is my kind of weekly bull bear thesis. Very simple, just using one Gann high low, set to 46, the best part of a year, and at the bottom I just got the RSI, although that's not hugely relevant. But what is interesting is that if you have a lot of people use this when you get an RSI reading below 40, that kind of goes into a bear zone, so a RAR zone. And that would be a weekly closure below 75, which up until yesterday looked quite likely. However, based on the last sort of 24 hours price action, looks a bit less likely. But I use that term lightly because, as you'll see when I come down to the lower timeframes are still in a downtrend. Okay, so you can see here, if I zoom in now, the current bull market, which using this indicator with my strategy started back over here in March 2023, and as you can see, the price has been above the line ever since. It's had a couple of one perfect tap, one close tap, and this looks like it might be a very close tap this week that we're in at the moment, clearly with a few days left, 3 days for its closure to occur. This is the index. This is the Bitcoin index, which has the most history. Yeah, I do wonder if this is going to be another one of these. Now, as you can see, this wick perfectly touched the line. However, it wasn't up and to the right from then. There was a bit of upside, a bit more downside, and then the uptrend started. So we'll see what happens. But if you like, this was probably a good value zone for this strategy, because clearly if you miss the exact entry here, and if you believe that it's a good strategy, then you want to pick up an entry as close to the line as possible, right? Because that has the biggest risk reward. That's not financial advice. This is my strategy. Get your own. So that's that one. Now, if I just jump down to get a different view here, that's the weekly again. So this is using the Bollinger Band and the momentum indicators. You've already seen this one. That's the RSI just at the top of the screen rather than the bottom. The MACD is getting close to the zero line, just like it did over here. So in the 6 month, terrible, boring sideways and down phase, the MACD did flirt quite closely with the zero line. And remember, I use the zero line as my pivot on momentum. And it's getting close, but it hasn't crossed below yet. It will continue falling, though, with weekly closures below 89. So definitely some work to be done for the MACD to turn back up in a weekly time frame. And you can see that this week really was the week where if the weekly volatility was going to expand, this was the week for it. And with 3 days to go, it looks like that's not going to occur, although you never know. You never know, because the week hasn't closed yet. But it looks like it's basically sideways. So no volatility expansion to the downside. And remember, the significance of that is weekly volatility expanding to the downside. That, my friends, is no longer a weekly uptrend, which is really no longer a bull market. That would also very likely coincide. So if volatility did expand to the downside on a weekly time frame, it would very likely coincide with the RSI going into a bear zone on the weekly time frame, and probably the MACD crossing to the downside. So all of those things would scream bull market. Done for now, and let's look for cheaper prices. But it hasn't happened yet. Looks like it's hanging on. Okay, down to the daily. So this was yesterday when the announcements happened about the 90-day pause, and it was a good bounce. But this is what I mean about, of course markets react to politics and sentiment and all this jazz. Of course they do. Yeah, I mean, only a fool would deny that. And maybe I'm a fool, but I'm not denying that. I think the point I'm trying to make is that even though the market reacts to things like that, generally the structure stays intact. So the structure of the market, in my opinion, is the thing you should follow, not the sentiment, not the rhetoric, not the headlines, not the I love listening to news because it just makes me laugh a lot. Particularly, and don't mean to offend anyone, US politics at the moment. Wow, it's a soap opera, and I know that's what America was the leader of soap operas with that amazing series Friends that started in the noughties, late 90s, can't remember. But they are the masters of the soap opera, and it appears that their politics has taken on a Socratic nature of late. But anyway, regardless of that, the point is the trend here on the daily time frame has not changed. So it's still to the downside, still got loads of lower highs and a few lower lows. What's going to negate that? Well, at the very minimum, using the Bollinger Band here, you can see the midpoint is 83,250. So we need daily closures above there. That doesn't mean reversal, because you can see at the top of the Bollinger Band's up here. So just the spread of the probabilities is within that, from 77.5 up to 89. And so price action up to there doesn't change much, but it does give price a chance, because then it's above the midpoint, and when a volatile move occurs, wherever price is relative to the midpoint, that's the root of the price move. So need the daily time frame to be back above the midpoint of the Bollinger Band, which is 83, call it 4. So it's close to there. We'll see what happens at close of play today, which won't happen for another 14 and a half hours. But at the moment, it's still in a downtrend. Therefore, the trend is your friend. Further downside is more likely. You can see my momentum indicator, the MACD, is very much divergent to the price. And, that speaks a fair amount. However, it's still below the zero line, and therefore momentum is still to the downside. It will continue green, though, so it will continue rising as long as Bitcoin's above 80,000 for daily closures, which it is a little bit at the moment. Down to the 4 hour, beautiful W formation here, perfect double bottom. Technically, I don't really subscribe to this, but technicians would suggest that having broken the neckline, so the neckline, see, I'm just doing this very inaccurately, that was 6% from the bottom, so you should expect a similar move to the upside. That would take Bitcoin up to about 85. I don't know about that. Personally, I don't really put a lot of weight in such things like formations, but that is worth a thought. 85, if you translate that to the daily time frame, would be a move back above the midpoint, which would be a good thing. It wouldn't be hugely bullish, but it would be more bullish than bearish. But for now, the 4 hour really just did a perfect trace of the bottom and the top of the Bollinger Band. And I was living above the midpoint, which has started to turn up. So you can see that the 4 hour momentum wants to shift a bit to the upside. And that's also manifested with a cross of the zero line, although it's very close. It's almost on it. And you can see it will cross back below with a 4 hour closure, $1,000 from where $1,000 below where price action is at the moment. The midpoint of the Bollinger Band is a fair bit lower. So what do I think could occur today? I mean, the most bullish thing, in my humble opinion, today would be price not breaking below about 80K. And when I say today, that's what takes us into Friday, maybe the weekend. Yeah, if 80K can hold as support, that's good for next week. That's all I'm going to say on that front. So yeah, 4-hour with some upside posture. Daily remains in a downtrend. Weekly remains in an uptrend. It's all a bit precarious. I'm waiting for this. Give you a quick little flash. So this is my main kind of semi long term. Well, no, not long term investment. Long term investments like over decades, right? I guess these are more like my trades, So I'm waiting for price to get back above here, which is currently at 88.5. That's for a daily closure, to remember. So that would flip this bullish and would start to make this whole section here look like a macro high and low. So that's what I'm waiting for. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed the video. If so, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care. It's been a pleasure.